Sa lahat po ng inaatenda namin, mga climate consultations, forums ng gobyerno, we rarely see DPWH in it. We're seeing a mismatch between what we see in the consultations and what is supposedly the main recipient of the climate budget. It is really embarrassing for our country to be championing for climate justice out there, while in our own boundaries is we have arguably the biggest corruption scandal that has hit our country in a long time.
Ay, magandang umaga mga kaibigan. This is Kaloy Conde again for another episode of our Open Talk podcast. So today, I'm happy to be joined by JL Algo. JL Algo is the National Coordinator of Action Klima Philippines, and we're going to be talking about climate issues in the Philippines, taking off from the recent controversy surrounding corruption, flood control projects. So, pag-usapan natin yun ng konti, but also later on in this episode, we will tackle kung ano yung mga advocacies ng grupo ni JL. No? JL, good morning at maraming salamat for joining us.
Magandang umaga po, sir, at maraming salamat sa pag-imbita sa akin upang makisama sa inyong program.
Yeah. Salamat. Alam mo, JL, na natatanggap ko yung mga statements ng Action Klima tungkol nga dito sa controversies on flood control, corruption, and all of that. And it got me thinking whether, I'm sure merong sinasabi ang mga climate rights groups sa Pilipinas tungkol sa mga nangyayari ngayon. Obviously because yun nga, flood control is a serious issue at the thinking is that kung hindi maayos yung mga ganitong klaseng flood control mitigation ng gobyerno, alam mo, mawo-worsen niya yung climate impact sa maraming parte ng bansa, no? Dito sa pag-review niyo sa mga nangyaring yung controversy ng flood control, ano ang tipong lumalabas na pinaka importanteng issue dito na napansin niyo?
Alam niyo po sa aming pag-aaral sa kasalukuyan sa mga issue tungkol sa flood control sa makikita po natin na maraming layers, maraming angulo na kailangan talaga natin. Matagal na po namin sinasabi ng mga climate advocacy groups na ang ina po ito climate change, ito po ay climate crisis. And it's not just an environmental issue anymore. Hindi lang po krisis na pangkalikasan o pangkapaligiran ang ating tinatalakay ngayon. Kailangan tingnan din po natin yung social aspect, yung political aspect as well. And I think that's very important for all of the listeners of this podcast and for everyone else, quite frankly, to understand. Kailangan may ganun na po tayong pagtingin ngayon sa lahat ng issue, lalo na po sa usapin ng krisis sa klima at konektado po talaga dito ang flood control projects na kasalukuyang nagdo-dominate ng mga headlines sa ating bansa.
Alin dito sa mga nabunyag na JL ang talagang starkly nagpakita sa na ganito na kalala yung problema. Not so much yung may problema tayo sa climate crisis obviously, but also yung response ng government sa crisis na to. Sa anong pangyayari nitong mga nakaraang ilang linggo surrounding these scandals ang medyo nagpaano sa na tipong sandali, sobra-sobra na to?
Alam niyo po, simula pa lang po ng taon sa aming network, sinimula na po namin tignan ang mga developments pagdating sa national budget. Specifically, syempre dahil kami ay isang climate advocacy network, ang focus pa namin ay yung climate budget. And when we look into the proposed climate budget in the Philippines, syempre yung national budget po, if my numbers are correct, 6+ trillion. And 1+ trillion po doon ay supposedly nakahanay sa mga prioridad natin against climate change. So, yung 1+ trillion po na yun po ay mahigit doble sa climate budget ng nakaraang taon at kung ano pa mang taon ang ating titignan. So when you look at it from that perspective, when you look at that number at first glance, you're going to think, wow, 1 trillion pesos. That
Yeah.
means the government's really going to take this seriously.
Mhm.
And if you look at what happened last year sa ating bansa, kung titingnan po natin ang mga extreme events na tumama sa atin, kumbaga, kung titingnan po natin yung mga nangyari, hindi lang po ito yung opposite ends of the spectrum na tinatawag natin, na yung parehong extremes tumama sa bansa natin last year, halos magkatikit sila in terms of the
Mhm.
time span. So for example, may heat wave tayo last year na meron pang El Nino, talagang sobrang init. And then just a few weeks after that, nagsimula ng bumaha. Wala pa po yung
Mhm.
mga bagyo. Uulan pa lang. Pero binabaha na rin ang bansa natin. And then, around November last year, tinamaan tayo ng 6 na bagyo sa loob lamang ng 4 na. That has never happened in
Mhm.
modern times in the Philippines. That is climate change as it gets. It's as real as it gets. So, kaya po nung naging 1 trillion pesos, yung nakita namin climate budget, supposedly, na ipinesenta ng gobyerno. Of course, if anyone looks at it, it looks good. It looks like it's a response to what happened last year. And kung natatandaan po natin, binanggit po ito ng presidente last year sa kanyang SONA. He was he was claiming that 5,500 flood control projects were accomplished. It was a big part of his SONA. And then a few months after that, may investigations na. They were calling for
Mhm.
investigations. So what's happening now is not just this year. This was literally what was happening to our country last year. So for us in Action Klima and other CSOs in the country, we are not surprised about this kind of development because this is literally what happened last year
Yeah.
in the Philippines.
May mga ginawa na ba kayong pag-aaral o tipong pag-o-audit nung mga projects na ito na hindi lang yung pinaka-recent na pinondohan ng gobyerno but even before because I'm sure meron na ring mga climate budget ito dati na masasabi nating maayos naman o hindi or ano kumbaga ano yung record ng gobyerno in terms of actually using the monies that have been allotted for climate response.
Alam niyo po, yun po yung aming ginagawa ngayon sa Action. So dito sa mga aktibidad namin na sa kasalukuyan. We are reviewing the past 6 years of national climate budgets. Kaya po 6 years, ang start po kasi 2020. Yun po yung tinitignan namin na timeline. From 2020, pwede ba kayo ano? Ayun. Actually, available po online ang datos ng pamahalaan pagdating sa hindi lang sa hindi lang sa national budget sa GAA, pati na rin po sa mismong climate budget. It's actually available online and it is a welcome development in terms of transparency in how the government spends taxpayers' money for climate projects. Sorry, climate projects. To put that in quotation marks, given what we know now.
Mhm.
And kung titingnan, sa kasalukuyan po, sir, kung titingnan po natin yung datos, meron pong mga insights doon na kailangang maintindihan at maipaunawa natin sa bawat mamamayang Pilipino na kumbaga pagdating sa climate action, ganito ginagamit ang pondo natin. Kasi meron ng taong bayan yan. Kaya kung titingnan po natin, for example, nabagay ko po kanina, 1 trillion this year. Last year, wala pang 500 billion pesos. So more than twice ang itinaas ng budget for climate this year. Pero kung titignan po natin mas maigi yung mga numero kung anong ahensya ang may pinakamataas na climate budget, kung anong climate issue ang pinaka-pinupuntahan ng GAA, for example, then it becomes even more obvious just how problematic at the moment, at least,
Mhm.
our system of allocating money in the Philippines is for climate projects. So, for example, sa ito po ulit ay public data. So anyone can access this. And for this year, isang ahensya po ang they are the dominant agency in terms of climate budget allocations. Which of course, that is DPWH. And 300 plus billion pesos sa flood control projects pa lang po yan. Actually, DPWH from our calculations, eh, more than 80% of the climate budget in the country. And you know what's interesting, Sir Carlos, is that sa lahat po ng inaatenda namin, mga climate consultations, forums ng gobyerno, we rarely see DPWH in any.
Oh, wow.
Nandiyan po ang Climate Change Commission, of course. Nandiyan din ang TNR, of course. Hindi yung mga consistent dapat. But for a public government agency to have that kind of a budget, and again, this is not just from Action Clima's experience. You name any climate CSO for this year, we attend a lot of consultations, forums, sessions, meetings with the government. We rarely see DPWH in India, even in Congress.
Oh,
Sa lahat po
wow.
ng sa lahat po ng mga bills na aming tinitignan, lalo sa House of Representatives Committee on Climate Change, I think DPWH is there sometimes, but given again the responsibility and the mandate kung sino po talaga ang magpapatupad ng mga programa pangklima. It's CCC, it's DNR, sometimes it's DA, DOE, kasi nga, renewable energy. Pero we rarely see DPWH. So, doon pa lang po makikita natin may hindi pagkakatuwa
Yeah.
mula sa ating nakikita on the ground. And by on the ground, we're not even talking about committee level, we're just talking about consultations with the government.
Mhm.
So we're seeing a mismatch between what we see in the consultations and what is supposedly the main recipient of the climate budget.
So just to reiterate, JL, and correct me if I'm wrong. So did you mention 80% of the climate budget is allotted to DPWH? It's supposed to be sila yung dapat nag-identify and nag-finance, right? 80%? Did I hear you right?
More than Actually, more than 80%. And this is not just for this year. Even
Okay.
last year, I think it's also above 80%, if I remember my numbers correctly. Yes.
And yet,
For the
and
last two
yet,
years po.
yeah, and yet they're hardly present in any of these consultations. So, is it safe to assume? I mean, I don't want to assume, but it looks like in terms of implementing the projects, wala rin sila kung nag-i-implement man.
The reason why, siguro po, ito po isa pang context natin. Ito po isa pang angle na tinutukoy natin kung bakit hindi po sila present sa mga consultations na pupuntahan ng mga CSOs. Climate CSOs sa Pilipinas. Dahil po kasi, ito pa isang problema natin. We are so focused. We're talking about the government implementation. We're so focused on infrastructure. Kaya po napupunta sa DPWH. Kasi bilong piso yan.
Oh, this
Ang
is the
pinaka-public.
this is what they call the gray infrastructure that people are railing against these days.
Yes. Yun nga po. So, yung mga pinupuntahan po namin consultations sa CCC sa DIN, ito po ay mga consultations for actually upgrading our climate plans and policies in the Philippines. And this is one thing that a lot of people are not even aware of. This year, from our perspective, is the most critical year in determining our country's future direction for climate policies. Ang dami pong polisiya at plan. Pati mga panukalang batas sa Kongreso, marami po kami tinatalakay doon for the past 12 months. Kasama na po yung last year. For the past 12 months, nandiyan po yung plano natin for mitigation, for example. Yung tinatawag na NDC. That's due this year, supposedly.
Mhm.
Ina-upgrade din po natin yung ating tinatawag na Just Transition Framework. Ibig sabihin lang po ng Just Transition, kapag nagpapalit tayo ng source of energy, kapag ginagawa natin mas environment-friendly mga industriya, dapat walang may in-updating po yan. Pati po yung ating tinatawag na blue carbon. Ibig sabihin lang po nun, mga pakawan o mangroves, pang forestry pero mas malapit sa kanila. So,
Okay.
marami pong polisiya na ina-update. Pati mga sa Congress, they're talking about the Climate Accountability Bill. Yun po yung sa tingin ko, mas konektado talaga sa, yan, sa justice, sa accountability. Pero pa carbon markets, I promise you, Sir Carlos, there's at least 10 at least 10 major policies. I would consider them major policies on climate and plans that are being updated this year. And a lot of people are not even aware of them. And those plans po that we're talking about, they are not infrastructure heavy for the most part. Kaya po walang DPWH masyado doon. Because I guess
Okay.
you can say their presence is not as critical as DNR or DOE or any other agency. But
Pero
that
itong mga
exactly is
Yeah, pero
part of the
itong mga
process.
ibang agencies, wala namang king issue in terms of their attention or in terms of their participation.
In the consultations for engagements with the CSOs, from our perspective po, ibang usapan po siguro yung quality ng engagement. But in terms of at least yung mga mismo, there are consultations, meron naman po mga consultations at meron po mga tool. But again, that goes back to the what I was talking about earlier, mismatch. Ito yung mga ina-update na plano, pero ang kitang-kita naman sa ating proposed budget sa GAA, for this year, for last year, for almost any other year, talagang infrastructure heavy. And that is
Yeah.
a big part of the problem.
Ano ang mga specific na ginagawa ngayon ng mga climate groups such as yours to actually change that? Obviously, advocacies with legislators is part of that, but are there specific kind of moves to change that?
Alam niyo, if you allow me, Sir Carlos, to tell a very
Sure,
short story.
sure, sure.
So, recently, of course, for us climate CSOs, ang ginagawa din po namin, pinupuntahan po namin ng direkta ang mga komunidad. Pumupunta po kami sa mga people's organizations, CSO sa labas ng Metro Manila, sa mga probinsya. Baka makita po namin din kung ano yung epekto ng mga national level policies. If they're really national and if they're really being localized. Kasi
Mm.
sa aming pagtingin po, ito po yung isa sa mga direksyon ng pag-action laban sa climate change na ating nakikita ngayon is that we need to really put a premium on localization.
Okay.
So, mga 2 to 3 months ago, I was in Cebu. So, nagkaroon po ko ng pagkakataon na makausap ang mga local na CSOs, people's organizations, and even some local officials of some nearby government units. One of the first things I asked them, Sir Carlos, is, ano po ang inyong impression sa mga national developments on climate change sa ating bansa? Of course, because it's Cebu. So my expectation is it's one of the biggest cities in the country. So they're probably more in tune with national level developments than other areas in the Philippines, right?
Yeah.
Nobody said anything.
Oh.
They are not aware of so-called national level developments. And again, these are not just CSOs and people's organizations that I talk to. There are some local government officials there. So that alone gave me this thought in my head. That's what made me realize, kulang po talaga tayo sa localization. Kaya po sa aming mga CSOs, climate advocacy groups, gusto po talaga namin makausap at makipag-ugnayan sa mga local stakeholders para po marinig natin ang kanilang mga hinaing at pangangailangan tungkol sa krisis sa klima, maiparating po natin sa pamahalaan, local man o national, para ma-actionan. At para siguro po natin na talagang needs-based. Ayan.
Mm-hmm.
Needs-based po dapat. Ang lahat ng solusyon natin, hindi lamang sa climate change, kundi pati na rin sa lahat ng issue. At yun
Okay.
yung tingin ko po problema ng mismatch. Hindi siya needs-based. Well, it could be needs-based, but it seems like it's based on the needs of a few people. Okay.
Ano ang JL, ano ang naging tugon ng like agencies in the government, like for instance the Climate Change Commission on all of this? I'm assuming na they're aware of these issues that you just laid out in terms of the lack of engagement ng mga local communities or officials. Ano ang tugon nila dito? Are they being well, to use the word proactive? Are they being sensitive to these needs or merong kakulangan?
Uh, this is just my personal observation po. So
Okay.
whoever's listening out there, it's just my personal observation. So from my personal observation, Sir Carlos, the CCC tries its best to really reach out and ensure a more effective localization. For example po, no, meron silang kasalukuyang partnership with the LG, uh, Local Government Academy, among other groups to uh, strengthen yung tinatawag na local climate change action. So, meron silang mga training sessions, meron po silang mga capacity building. CCC also sometimes visits local areas in the
Mm-hmm.
Philippines For example, they were in Antique a couple of months or weeks ago. So they have those kinds of efforts. But the CCC, to be honest with you, is they need more capacity. They need to be given more. So, kung babalikan po natin ulit yung usapan ng kanina, yung climate budget. So let's tie it back to that. So, tinanong niyo po kanina, Sir Carlos, no, about the expenditures.
Mhm.
Ayan. So, yung nakikita po natin sa datos na climate budget, yung GAA, hindi po yung expenditures. That's just the allocation of the budget for 1 year. So, it will take some time, of course, para ma-audit yung mga projects, para makita kung meron ba talagang effect. And more importantly, kaya po mayroong ganong sistema ng monitoring, ng tracking, ay para makita din po kung tugma ba yung mga project doon sa mismong National Climate Change Action Plan because that's the ultimate point. Yun yung
Mhm.
basehan ng ating climate imperative sa Pilipinas.
Okay.
Tugma ba yan sa mismong target na isinet ng ating sariling gobyerno? So, yun po yung sa tingin ko kailangan ng tulong. Hindi lang po ng CCC. Of course, other agencies probably. Especially when it comes, Sir Carlos, to tracking. Kung tugma ba yung, number one, kung tugma ba yung priority sa budget allocation. Pangalawa, kung ay papatupad po ba ng tama, which it looks like a big part of it is they know. Hindi siya naipapatupad ng maayos because of the corruption problems, among other issues. And number three, yung monitoring and evaluating. Kasi sa kasukay po sistema, Sir Carlos, yung climate budget dito po sa Pilipinas, mayroon pong pinapatupad na sistema. Ang tawag po dito ay Climate Change Expenditure Target or CCET. Ito
Mhm.
lang po yung, so ito yung para nila para ma-check kung, for example, tugma ba sa National Climate Change Action Plan itong project na ito. Kung tugma po siya, anong area ang kanyang chine-check
Yeah.
off? Food security ba? Water sufficiency? Human security? Kasi may pito po yan sa ating NCCA. And then, a big part po nun is adaptation ba siya or mitigation. So may mga ganong sistema po yun. And then may code na binibigay sa bawat proyekto ng gobyerno na that corresponds to the NCCAP and kung adaptation or mitigation siya. So even the flood control projects go through that system.
Yeah.
At sa aming pong pagkakaalam, sa kasalukuyan po Sir Carlos, ay mga ay hindi po CCC yung nag-check kung yung project po ba ay adaptation and mitigation. They leave it to the agencies themselves. They leave it to the
Okay.
government agencies. So, like we said, the CCC tries its best, but given it really needs more capacity, especially to implement something like this. Again, corruption, that's a whole different story, right? Pero since we're talking about climate action here and how that corruption is affecting that, so may nakita po tayong malaking problema sa CCE. That is, hindi sila talaga climate aligned for the most part. You can say,
Okay.
I mean, for example, sir, you can say na almost any action we do is climate related because climate change is all encompassing, right?
Yeah.
Pero dapat may epekto pa rin. We should see that the impact on the community or whoever the beneficiary of the project should be. So, flood control, for example, I mean, hindi naman tayo nagpupulat-pulatan dito. We know that a lot of those flood control projects do not control anything. They just let the floods loose.
Yeah.
And that is a big problem. Pero but in the current GAA, in the climate budget, they are tagged as climate aligned. So,
Mm.
monitoring, evaluation-wise, accountability, doon po may pagkukulang. But not necessarily the fault. I don't think it's really the fault of the CCC, to be honest.
Yeah.
It's just that the way that the system of this climate expenditure tagging is structured right now. At, kung yung pondo po na pupunta sa mga korap, punta lang siguro din sa capacity building, ma-improve yung monitoring. That would actually help. Like,
Yeah.
we could talk about a lot of the solutions right now. But I think, sir, I hope from that explanation, nakita po ating mga viewers dito sa podcast of one aspect of this accountability issue and how certain policies and programs of the government, especially on transparency. Kasi hindi naman po pwedeng transparency na, okay, nakikita natin, nakapublish sa website, okay na yan.
Mhm.
That's just compliance. We
Yeah.
also need to make sure that the transparency is really of high quality din. Because otherwise, bulag-bulagan lang po tayo dito.
Yeah. So parang at the very least, parang nakikita ko, parang napaka-uneven ng ginagawa ng mga agencies. I mean, when we talk about agencies, you're talking about the DNR, for instance, right? Kasi sila yung dapat yun nga, nagmo-monitor kung talaga bang sang-ayon itong ginagawa ng itong mga projects na to sa National Climate Action Plan. Obviously, there are ways to compel these agencies to do better. Pero realistically speaking, ano ang pwedeng gawin kayo, ng CSOs or even ordinary citizens na nasa affected areas? For instance, sa Visayas, yan, dami-dami. Ano ang kailangan, ang pwede nilang gawin para ma-improve nila itong ganitong klaseng monitoring?
I think ngayon po nakita na natin yung ibang mga pwedeng gawin. Sometimes simply speaking out matters.
Mhm.
Uh, Kailan po ba ang huling beses nakita natin na merong ganong kalaking protesta sa Kamaynilaan or actually anywhere else in the country when you think about it? When was the
Yeah.
last time you've seen that kind of mass mobilization? I think that speaks volumes about just how much Filipinos forget the political affiliation for a while because apparently some of them are calling that for that that hey, it doesn't matter what color of the politician we cheer for or whatever, we all are anti-corruption. So that in itself is a powerful message. And I think, Sir Carlos, the one good thing we're also seeing now, because we saw this thing last year that they tried to investigate it in the Senate. I remember that.
Mhm.
And wala pang nangyari. But now it looks like it's going to be a very different story. And I think there are different reasons for that po, Sir Carlos. So, meron na pong mga relatable na issues that I think a lot of Filipinos can really identify with and can really get upset about. And I hate to bring this up, but nga po, yung mga network agencies, I think that brought an angle, this whole corruption issue related to flood control that I don't think we really saw last time. So I think yung ganun po example to make the issue more relatable, to make it more compelling for Filipinos, ordinary Filipinos, just like you said, to really become more engaged in this process. Because this is just my perspective. But at any point, Filipinos can always speak out against corruption. I mean, this is not the first time. Hindi po itong unang pagkakataon na may corruption sa ating bansa. Ilang
Yeah.
ilang dekada na po ba tayong nabubuhay sa mundong ito? At ilang dekada naman natin kita ng mga popular na politiko na anti-corruption daw, na convicted, na may kaso sa Sandigang Bayan. How many times have we seen this in the past? I mean, when I was growing up, pork barrel is
Yeah.
probably the big issue. We saw a president get convicted for crying out loud, right?
Yeah.
So, but why? So it's also hard to be, it's easy also, Sir Carlos, to be skeptical. Kung di mangyayari ba ngayon ulit? It's not the
Mhm.
first time we're dealing with this. But I think syempre nag-iba din po ang mga factors, no? Like we said, wala pa namang social media noon. I think that's a big factor now as well, whether we like it or not. And when you ask me, Sir Carlos, kung ano po yung pwedeng gawin mismo ng mga ordinary Pilipino aside from that, uh, it really matters to just keep as many eyes on the issue as possible. Because the moment that Filipinos sense, ay, wala na kami interest dyan, let's just move on to another popular, trendy issue or whatever to focus on, then we're back to square one. So to
Yeah.
me, just keeping the attention on this matters just as much.
Well, yeah, that's a very good point, because as you are aware, JL, is like itong climate issue na talaga minsan to a lot of Filipinos. I mean, ramdam nila yan, kaya lang there's some level of pagiging esoteric ng subject na minsan talaga hindi talaga tumatagos unless meron talagang some really tragic event that occurred like Haiyan, Yolanda, and then that becomes that comes to that comes to the surface and people talk about it, but once everything is kumbaga tapos na, I mean, balik uli sa sa dating gawin. Ang nakakalungkot pa dito, I mean, stating the obvious here, but nakakalungkot pa dito, uh, the way our politicians are dealing with climate is napaka I'm being kind here, but napaka tokenistic, to put it kindly. I don't know if you agree with me on that one, but given the fact nga na Even the implementation of projects are questionable. Hindi nag-align yung mga plano, spotty yung record. Yun. I think mukhang ang dami-dami pa talagang kailangan gawin ng, ng mga climate advocates such as yourself. JL, bilang panghuling tanong ko sa iyo, sa I mean malapit na ang COP, right?
Right.
Sa scheme of things kumbaga natin in terms of dealing with the climate crisis, saan nalalagay ang Pilipinas sa unang-una sa mga risks, but also gi- regardless of what we've talked about here, regardless of what we're seeing being reported in the news, saan nalalagay din ang Pilipinas in terms of the response? Hindi lang ng gobyerno, but especially ng mga communities at CSOs. I'm assuming na nag-improve na over the years.
Alam po, ang napansin ko lang po sa ating bansa, kapag tayo nagda-number one, malakas ang boss ng Pilipino. Lalo sa social media. Whenever we're number one in anything, beauty pageant, tennis, volleyball, you name it, ang ingay sa social media. Pero pag nag-number one tayo sa, kagaya ngayon, nag-number one na naman tayo sa disasters na naman. Disaster risk, climate risk. Here we go again. It's
Yeah.
again, like I said, dito na naman tayo. So, uh, what the president said a few weeks ago, kung matatandaan po natin to, ay, yeah, man lagi sa Pilipinas, na tayo magagawa dyan. He's not 100% wrong when he said that. Because that is also rooted in the sense that we will always be exposed to hazards. Lagi tayong tatamaan ng mga kalamidad. Dahil tayo nasa daanan ng bagyo. Tayo ay
Mhm.
malapit sa tabi natin ng Pacific Ocean. Doon dumadaan ng mga bagyo. Isa tayong kapuluan. May sea level rise. Like, that's already part of the geographical challenges of our country since even before any of us were born. Like, it is the way it is. Pero yung sinabi, the way the president said it to me is wrong because there's still something that can be done. He sounded very defeatist to me. And that came just a few months after bragging about the 5,500 flood control projects. To me, that just screams he doesn't want to be held accountable or something like that. I don't know how to best phrase it. But in terms of response, I think we can say that there is a certain level of improvement. Okay po, like you said, Sir Carlos, isn't just the government we're talking about now. We're talking about everyone. And I think over the years, makita naman po natin na meron namang mga improvements sa paraan ng pagresponde ng ating bansa sa krisis sa klima. And I think a good example of that is number one, ever since Yolanda, wala pa pong bagyo sa Pilipinas in the past 12 years now that came even close to the destruction brought by Yolanda. I think ang pinakamalapit po na bagyo sa ating bansa in terms of degree of damage that came even close to Ondoy was Opong. Hindi
Yeah.
Opong, Opong
Ompong, yeah.
from 3 to 4 years ago, around that time. And wala pa, I think the damage was only 50%. But that's still 50% damage, and that's still a bad thing in itself, of course. Pero if you look at it from that perspective, there have been improvements from that perspective po. And there are also certain things, I think, Sir Carlos, that the little things, like for example, syempre yung evacuation, meron pa rin pong mga makulit na ayaw lumikas, pero meron naman pong, for the most part, well, Filipinos are more, generally speaking, more attentive, more preventive, because why would they want to go through any of that again? Why would any of us want to go through this again? So that's a good thing. The weather forecasts we see on TV, that's another good example. It's a bit more complicated now, but more colorful. Uh, and I think they've done a better job of really communicating to Filipinos everywhere that this is the weather condition. Again, syempre, may mga magko-complain pa rin po na, ay, bakit sila nagsabi ng uulan pero di man umulan?
Yeah.
Folks, that's just how weather forecasting is. And as someone like myself who studied climate science for a long time, that's just how the way it is sometimes.
Yeah.
But the best thing to do is preparedness. So, and of course, avoidance. Syempre, prevention is better than cure. Pero po, Sir Carlos, since we're talking about COP30, uh, for me, ito po ang kailangan gawin ng gobyerno. Una po sa lahat, yung NDC po natin ay tapusin na natin. Let's not wait until next year kung for the benefit pala of our listeners po dito. No? Ang NDC po ng Pilipinas, ang ibig sabihin lang po niyan, ito yung target natin para magbawas ng ating greenhouse gas emissions. Lahat po ng bansa na kasama sa Paris Agreement, lahat po tayo magsasubmit. So walang pinipili yan. And it's self-determined. So hindi tayo pinipili, hindi tayo nape-pressure dapat ng kung sino man. It should be our target from
Yeah.
our needs. And it needs to be finished by COP30. So, ang mensahe po namin sa ating gobyerno, na po tayo maghintay ng next year, una po natin ulitin yung 2021, isubmit natin this year. We've been doing consultations for most of the entire year. And kung kayang isubmit this year, submit po natin this year. But that's just for COP30, Sir Carlos.
Yeah.
I think it also helps, given that we're talking about flood control here as well, no? That next week po ay magkakaroon ng board meeting dito sa Pilipinas tungkol sa loss and damage fund.
Yeah.
So, ang Pilipinas po ang host ng mga board meetings na ito. 2 out of 3 times every year ay sa Pilipinas po siya gagawin. So, it will happen next week, October 7 to 9. At mahalaga pong pag-usapan dun sa loss and damage fund po yun, Sir Carlos. Dahil una, pag-usapan po dun yung pondo.
Mhm.
Ito po yung pagtulong mismo. Ito po yung pagbibigay ng pera mula sa loss and damage fund. At kung paano ito ibibigay sa mga bansa para tugunan ang loss and damage dahil sa climate change. So, it's actually very relevant to the Philippine context.
Yeah, can you
Pangalawa po,
explain a little bit bakit sa Pilipinas, bakit napaka-involved ng Pilipinas dito? Of course, may rason yan.
ang Pilipinas po ang board host ng loss and damage fund. At least sa mga board meetings. Last year po tayo ang napagdesisyonan na mag-host ng board meetings ng loss and damage fund po. And it speaks to our country's leadership in the global negotiations pagdating sa loss and damage. Dahil this is my personal perspective, Sir Carlos, but kung wala po ang Pilipinas, walang loss and damage fund.
Oh, okay.
And that all started because of Yolanda. Wala pong Yolanda, wala pong intervention ang ating CSO colleague sa Climate Center ngayon and the former head of negotiations for the Philippines in 2013 nung nangyari Yolanda, Mr. Yeb Sanya. So he gave this impassioned speech while Yolanda was happening. He went on a hunger strike. A lot of activists joined him in the venue of the COP in the protest. And because of that, nagkaroon ng isang mekanismo against loss and damage from that year's negotiations. And then, nagtuloy-tuloy na po yan. It built up over 10 years. And 10 years later, meron ng loss and damage fund at Pilipinas po ang so that speaks to the leadership of our country. Kaya po mahalaga din. So ito po isa pang anggulo na tinitingnan natin. At the global level po, ang Pilipinas ang isa sa mga champions for climate justice against loss and damage. So, while we're doing that at the global level, kailangan tugma yung action natin sa ating sariling bakuran. So, it is really embarrassing for our country to be championing for climate justice out there, while in our own boundaries, we have arguably the biggest corruption scandal that has hit our country in a long time. And it's sort of related to climate change. So, kaya po mahalaga din po itong susunod na board meeting na ito. Because it will also be a litmus test. Hindi lang po dahil ito ang huling major climate event globally bago ang COP30 mismo. But also given where our country is now. That we're still talking about the same thing. Almost the exact same thing we went through last year. And that's just in terms of climate change. In terms of corruption scandals, again, before we were even born, our ancestors were already dealing with all this nonsense.
Yeah.
So COP30 is very important for the Philippines for so many reasons. And that is because COP30 will serve as, we can say, the end point or the final stop in what, in our opinion, is the most critical year of climate action in our history. And COP30 will happen November.
Yeah. Well, on that note, JL, salamat ng marami for your very important perspectives in this one and also for the updates. Hopefully, something good comes out of all these controversies and scandals related to flood control projects that would, I hope, redound to a better response, climate response. Hindi lang ng mga CSOs but also and more importantly by the government. JL Algo po, a National Coordinator of Action Klima Philippines. Thank you so much for being with us today.
Maraming salamat po.